It's the Battle of the Devils. Tom Ellis' Lucifer versus Gwendoline Christie's. Who will emerge victorious in the end?
The devil doesn't get jealous.
Let's find out! One thing's for sure, Gwendoline's fallen angel won't have as big a role in the Sandman series as Tom has in the Lucifer show. I mean, the Sandman is centered around Dream's story, so Lucifer will only end up having a supporting role in all likelihood. It could still be a juicy and sizable part, but it's uncertain how much screen time Gwendoline will actually get on the show. Will it be enough for us to get to know the character thoroughly? Well, in the comic books, that's how Lucifer existed for the longest time, sporadically appearing here and there until he eventually received his own solo series after many years. On the other hand, it's safe to say that we know Tom's Lucy inside and out by now, sometimes rather intimately.
And if you may, every party's a sex party of sorts.
He's been the star of the show and even managed to overturn a cancellation to carry on delivering the devilish magic. Honestly, it's testament to the character's popularity among the loyal Lucy fans. It might be tough for fans to form the same kind of attachment to Gwendoline's Hellraiser, especially if there isn't enough of a significant presence there. That being said, the purists might instantly gravitate towards the Sandman version of Lucifer for one single reason: co-creator Neil Gaiman's involvement. It's no secret that Neil had practically nothing to do with the Lucifer TV show. It was one of those situations where the rights were owned by another party that made all the adaptation decisions. As a result, you don't really hear Neil talking it up too much, even though he accepts it is its own thing. However, the Sandman show promises to be a different kettle of fish. That has had Neil's involvement from the start, and he's even gone on record to state how it not only looks how he imagined, but it also feels like it. Having a creator's seal of approval certainly means a lot, and should get fans extra excited about what's to come. But does it automatically mean Gwendoline's Lucifer will be good or better than Tom's? Not necessarily. As Neil himself has stated, TV operates as a different medium to the comics, so what may work in one might not translate well in the other. It's why so many superhero costumes end up being changed for live-action adaptations. As an example, the Lucifer TV show has successfully been able to carve its own niche by being different from the source material. But will the Sandman be able to captivate the imagination in the same way? What we're likely to see is a completely different Lucifer, not only in how they look, but also in how they behave. Tom's character oozes pure charm and wit, never missing an opportunity to flaunt a naughty smile and crack a joke that'll leave you in stitches.
Who says the devil can't be charitable?
He's a riot, really. However, in the Sandman, Lucy will be portrayed differently. Not just because of the source material, but also due to the reason that Gwendoline will try to separate her version of Lucifer from Tom's. If it's anything like the comics, expect for her to be cool, calm, and more of a rock star, like the original inspiration for the character, David Bowie. Still, this hasn't stopped many people from wondering why the Sandman didn't just cast Tom in the part, since he's universally beloved as Mr. Morningstar. Neil did address this, saying, "The theology and cosmogony of Lucifer is a long way from Sandman's. It's inspired by Sandman, but you can't easily retrofit the Lucifer version to get back to Sandman, if you see what I mean. It seemed easier and more fun to have the Sandman version of Lucifer be, well, much closer to the Sandman version of Lucifer." In short, Neil also believes Gwendoline's Lucifer will be more like how he envisioned it, but perhaps this could be more to do with the overall tone and direction of the Sandman show. Don't expect Gwendoline's Lucy to be solving crimes on the show like Scooby-Doo, because the Sandman is going to be a completely different format from the Lucifer TV show.
I'm doing some other things.
It's being billed as a dark fantasy series that'll be heavy on drama as well. Judging by some of the behind-the-scenes footage, expect for it to be deep and philosophical at points, leaning more into its fantastical elements and pushing new boundaries. On the other hand, the Lucifer TV show was mostly a crime procedural for its earlier seasons. You know, like CSI or NCIS. It was fairly predictable, but there was something comforting about the formula. However, the show did expand its format since it moved to Netflix, embracing a little more of its supernatural nature into its overarching plot. The great thing about this approach is it allowed the focus to remain on Tom's Lucifer at all times. After all, you are tuning in for him and to see what he does next to move the storyline forward. As mentioned before, Gwendoline's Lucy will only be a supporting character in the Sandman at this point. It'll be a different character in a different world. But again, how much will we see of the ruler of hell in the grand scheme of things? And even if Lucy gets a decent amount of screen time, will this new version be able to convince the self-proclaimed Lucy fans to switch their allegiance? There's no escaping it. Tom has a huge fan base, and they'd follow him to the ends of the earth, or hell, if he asked them to.
I'm thirsty. Mum, you've just had a drink. Me, the thirst for Tom Ellis never stops.
Naturally, when it was announced that he wasn't playing Lucifer in The Sandman, many fans rejected the show purely based on that simple fact. After all, they'd fought so hard for the show's cancellation to be overturned, and now he wasn't even being considered for the part. It's madness, right? Despite Neil's reasoning for this, the reality is most fans of the TV show aren't the ones who read the comics, so the source material doesn't really mean much to them. They care about Tom's version of the character and want to see more of him. It might be an extremely hard sell to put a different Lucifer on Netflix screens so soon right now after all he's done with the character. Plus, there's a possibility that the two shows could still overlap since Season 6 of Lucifer has also been announced. Sure, it isn't unusual to have different versions of characters on screen at the same time since we are living in a time of multiverses, but will Gwendoline's Lucifer even be given a fair shot? Don't be too quick to write her off though. While Team Tom might be reluctant to accept Gwendoline as their new Lord of Hell, let's not forget that she's a sensational actress. She stole the show in Game of Thrones as Brienne of Tarth, proving that she can hold her own among a star-studded cast. And she was even a standout as Captain Phasma in the new Star Wars movies. She might not bring the same qualities as Tom does to his Lucifer, but do you want that in the first place? She has an entirely different range, and fits easily into the whole grungy aesthetic of the Sandman. There might be no other actor alive who embodies exactly what Neil wanted for Lucifer in the first place. Seriously, don't be too surprised if Gwendoline ends up being one of the best things about the show. Mark our words. Perhaps her version of Lucifer will also be gifted with the same powers as the comic book character. Because if that happens, then you know she'll be totally OP and one of the most powerful beings in the entire universe. But even if this does happen, Gwendoline will always struggle with one thing. She'll always be compared to Tom. Look, you know how Hugh Jackman is synonymous with Wolverine? Well, it's the same with Tom and Lucifer. For over 5 years, he's been warming up our screens and providing hellishly good entertainment. In fact, it might be to his detriment too, as the audience might struggle to see him as anything else than Mr. Morningstar. That being said, he's achieved something most actors can only dream of, an iconic part that'll stand the test of time. As a result, any actor who takes on the role will always be compared to Tom and what he did on the show. Even if Gwendoline's Lucy is entirely different and something unique, you'll inevitably hear someone say, well, Tom's Lucifer was much better than that. And let's not forget that Tom has a head start of 5 seasons on her, so the audience is far more familiar and comfortable with him. Perhaps the wiser decision here would have been to allow the Lucifer TV show to end and give the viewers some breathing space and time to move on. Because if Tom's version is still around when the Sandman drops, you can rest assured that there will be many comparisons, and maybe even criticisms leveled at Gwendoline's Lucifer. And the internet will definitely let you know about it. So, it's time for our final verdict. Who will be the best Lucifer? Ultimately, it depends on if you want comic book accuracy or not, because for us, it'll be difficult for Gwendoline to dethrone Tom as the best ruler of hell.
Just think of me as your guardian devil.
But what do you think? Let us know in the comments. While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and stay awesome.